Hi everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com and I'm back with another channeled celebrity video. I'm talking about an American actor, male, who was born December 8th, 1936, Sagittarius, with a Libra moon and a Pisces rising and a first house Saturn. And I'm going to get back to that in a minute. This actor died on June 3rd, 2009 in Thailand. Okay, having said that, this Sagittarius actor with his Pisces rising, perfect for an actor, by the way, because that is chameleon-like and it can ground in and out of all kinds of different strands of energy, which he did. He was born into a Los Angeles Hollywood royalty family, the entire family, the parents, well, the father, the brothers, the siblings, the children, all of them were involved in Hollywood, in acting, in the career, in the movie making, in TV. He came from that family. He was well known in the 70s for his show Kung Fu. He was well known for his Kill Bill movies, which he starred in. And he showed up dead in Thailand, hanging apparently from sexual asphyxiation. That's what it was ruled. It wasn't ruled a suicide, but it was ruled accidental death from choking oneself during the act of having sex with yourself while hanging from a closet in a strange country. Anyhow, I'm talking about the late actor David Carradine, and I wanted to get right into this. Now, my affiliation with David Carradine comes through his fourth wife, Marina Anderson, who happens to be a friend of mine, and I met her during the time that she was married to David. And we started to talk. She's very much involved in the spiritual world herself and is a healer and is just an all-around eclectic, creative person. So I enjoyed meeting her very much, and she actually came to my house at the time where I was living for a reading, and she brought, I have to mention this, which has nothing to do with anything, but she brought her dog Lulu. Now Lulu was the granddaughter of Lassie, and it was really great because I got to meet the granddaughter of Lassie. Beautiful dog, and I can remember them sitting at the same kitchen table that I'm at right now, sitting there with Lulu, and we became friends after that. Now, on the day that David died, Marina called me, I believe it was early that morning, and I don't know if the news had broken yet or not. I had not heard it. So she asked me to pick up on what I could get about David Carradine. Now, obviously, we'd heard stories, everybody'd heard stories, and what I find interesting was I immediately went into automatic writing with David. So there was something about his energy that wanted me to write it down, and I remember I wrote it down and I emailed it to Marina, and I have no idea what I said at the time. Only she knows what that is, what I said, because I honestly can't remember. So this time, we're coming up on his wedding anniversary to Marina, and I wanted to see if I could connect in with his energy. And it's so funny because when I think of David Carradine from his show in the 70s, which I didn't really watch too much. I mean, I don't think I was at an age where I would have been watching that show, but it was Kung Fu, and he was somewhat of a, spiritual monk who wandered the West and, gave guidance. And that's really interesting because he was a Sagittarius, and Sagittariuses are all about philosophy, theology, learning different ways of approaching people and being of service and guidance through higher-minded thought. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't watch the Kill Bill movies either. I'm terrible. However, I'm familiar with it because my kids did. So he was in both of these movies, but I wanted to channel right back into the energy of how he became who he was. And what I started off saying is that David really reminded me of a Capricorn. When I look at him, I just see Capricorn. I mean, he's quirky and he's weird and he has these odd characteristics, very Pisces rising. His presentation is very Libra moon, okay? So he presents himself in a balanced manner when behind the scenes, he's anything but balanced, okay? Which is very typical. Libra moons are very artistic. They have a good eye. They have a good vision, but they also have tempers underneath. So for them, they can fly off the handle at times. But that's not what I see when I look at him. When I looked at him and whenever I saw him, he reminded me of a Capricorn. So I had forgotten about his chart. So I looked his chart up this morning and I'm like, he's got a first house Saturn, okay? 4 or 5 degrees off the ascendant, I think. Maybe it's 4 degrees. It's pretty close conjunction. I mean, it's not a 3-degree orb, but it is close enough to affect his personality. Remember, Saturn's sign is Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by the planet of Saturn. And I was like, yes, this makes perfect sense to me. All right, so having said that, when I noticed this first house Saturn, I clicked right in to the energy of a first house Saturn. A first house Saturn is it's a difficult life for them, no matter how privileged it seems. And this is anybody with a first house Saturn. Saturn in the first house, let alone Capricorn on the ascendant, because that gives it a Saturnian effect. But a first house Saturn tells an astrologer almost immediately, depending on the sign, you will know the condition. Depending on the conjunctions to other planets and the aspects, you will know the specifics, and aspects to the moon and aspects to Venus and the Mars, etc. But Saturn in the first house tells an astrologer that the person who owns the natal chart ended that most recent past life rather quickly, usually at their own hands or reckless behavior. Could be drug overdose, could be suicide, could be reckless driving on the freeway, whatever it is an ending of a life almost immediately, and it shows that the soul chose to come back in to correct that for the first half of this life. So for the first half of anybody with the first house Saturn, again, please keep in mind that it depends what sign that Saturn's in and how it's aspected, the degree of the necessity of coming back that quickly, like what the impetus in the chart is. But it shows you that the person has come back in and spends the first 42 years of their life trying to correct, balance that karmic pattern. So they will be born with the knowledge that they want to go back to the other side and that the other side exists, but it will come out through depression. So a lot of them will suffer from depression issues or thoughts, suicide ideation and thoughts. That's just astrological. Sorry, it just is. So having looked at that, I now understand why I saw David in the sense that he was a Capricorn, because he had that kind of, that veneer of like something serious going on underneath, which Sagittarius has something fun going on underneath, right? Pisces rising can have a lot of things going on underneath and we don't really know which way it's going. And the Libra moon always cleans up really well. Okay, having said that, I started to focus on David. When I got up this morning, I asked him to come through with whatever he could show me. And again, I'd forgotten what I'd written Marina years ago. It's been 2009, it's been 11 years. So I have no idea what I wrote to her that morning. I remember certain things and certain feelings because it was overwhelming to me. And at the time, there was a lot that was blocked for me. And sometimes that happens in spirit. People will ask me, well, how come you can't get it right away? I don't know. Maybe the person who passed away doesn't know what happened to them right away. Since I've seen it in murder cases where they come through, but they're not really showing me, but I get a feeling, but it's not specific. It'll show me something, but it won't tell me, you know, like so-and-so came in and did this and, you know, this is how I ended up dead, unless they're very well aware of it. And if there's any kind of trickery done to the person who's on the other side, or drugs, or, you know, let's say they cross over and they have dementia and they can't quite remember it and their energy isn't aligned. Well, it takes a little while on the other side at times, if you OD and you cross over, for you to put your energy back to neutral, balance it out. It's all about balance. It's give and take. Nothing is either right or wrong. It's just this balance versus that balance and how to balance. Okay, so now we've said that. I'm like, it's all about balance. For David, what was interesting, he came right through really easily this morning. And it's funny because it's not funny, but I was thinking about doing this for several weeks and I didn't know when he would come through and I wasn't really asking him to come through. But when I got up this morning, I found him sitting beside my bed. Like literally, I caught him kind of sitting beside my bed. It's like he was kneeling and then sitting. So I saw him like kneeling, like he was peeking up, and then he sat back on his butt. Okay, so that's what I saw. And I went like this and I was like, okay. And then I asked him to come through. Like he kind of disappeared from my eye line at that time. He was to my left. And I started to feel, and he just like threw his hands up in the air and started talking. Like, it's like, oh my God, he won't shut up. Really. He started talking. He doesn't strike me like that. From what I know about him, he could be quite walled off. And I mean, I'm sure he could talk at times, but there were times where he was walled off and shut down. Not this morning. He kept talking. Now, what I saw is he threw his hands up in the air and he was talking about all this fighting that was going on around him. And I asked him in my head, it's kind of a telepathic thing. I thought, where is the fighting going on? I wondered if it was on the other side. He was going all the way back to his childhood, and he was talking about the fighting that was going on in his home growing up and the disruption. And he kind of showed me the inside of his home, and he showed me the inside of his parents' bedroom, and he showed me the dark curtains as if somebody had depression and had the curtains all like blacked out, or tons of curtains. And it was very much like a velvet curtain feeling in that bedroom. And it just struck me as like an old castle type feeling, the way it was dressed. It was very heavy energy. And I saw him, he was about 6, and I saw him peeking in the corner of the bedroom, and there was this fighting that was going on in the bedroom. I could see somebody in the bed and I could see somebody else in the bed, but I couldn't really see them because the room was dark and it was heavy. I could see the little boy standing at the door that was David as a child. And then I could see a woman in the room, and I could see her like screaming in the bed. I don't know if this was his mother, because the woman, she didn't look hot. This is a weird thing to say. She looked grandmotherly, not motherly. He was so little, I didn't think his mother would be that old or look like that. Okay, so I'm now starting to get a lump in my throat as I'm saying that, because it was like terrifying to him. I see him turning around and walking out, and he was telling me that there was so much dissension in his early childhood from what he witnessed. He goes right to his father. His father, okay, here we go with it. His father was, and forgive me for saying it, but this is what I'm picking up. His father was emotionally intrusive with David and took a liking to him in a way that wasn't right, or wasn't responsible, wasn't parental, wasn't healthy. Okay, so David is showing me instances from 6 and 7 and 8 on where he's with his father, where he's watching his father. And I think sometimes his mother be intimate, have sex, okay, have sex. He's watching that. He's watching his father with other people. There was a very close male friendship within the family, with the father within the family. And I see the father rolling up his sleeves, like those old shirts with the white sleeves back in the day, you know, where people dress nicely. Not like today, or at least not in California. Whatever, we're in flip-flops, who cares? I wear sweatpants most of the time. Anyhow, I'm seeing the shirt rolled up, I'm seeing the dad, and I'm seeing him and his buddies, and they're like wearing a hat, they're playing poker, they're drinking, they're smoking. It's away from the house, and it's this kind of club atmosphere, like a guy thing, like you would see in the old movies in the 30s, actually, with guys, and like a Spencer Tracy movie, okay? Like I'm getting that feel for it. So the dad had a bunch of guy friends, and he was always around these guy friends, and it's just like smoking and drinking and fun. And little David would go and hang out, and he would be around these guy friends. And then he's completely quiet with me. He's quiet, covers his mouth, and doesn't want to talk. And then I'm going into his early 20s, and he's really excited about being an actor. So we're leaving the childhood, which there seems to be some other kind of hidden dysfunction here. I'm going to go out and say that I feel like David and his father had a relationship that was inappropriate, in that the father introduced him to sex too early on, may have actually shown him how to have sex, made him watch him have sex. I'm saying that now because I can't get that out of my head over here. And I'm actually saying that. And I mean it when I'm saying it. And I'm sorry if it's offensive to people, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm actually seeing that. And I'm going to have to ask Marina what I said to her at that time, but that is what I'm seeing, okay? And I'm seeing that David had a very skewed idea about sex. It was inappropriate, overstimulated. And people, please remember this. When you have, okay, it's bad enough if you have girl children, but when you have boy children, they're visual. Well, girls can be too, but boys are visual. And if you overstimulate them, it's really hard for them to like be with a partner, because they've got to have such a take it up a notch for sex, so to speak. And I feel like David started that in early childhood, before the age of 10. Not saying anything about it being his fault. I'm saying the parental influence was appalling over here. And when he quiets his mouth, he goes into the back room of that club area or house or restaurant. It actually appears to be the back of a restaurant in Los Angeles, and I'm not sure which one. Again, it's some kind of a bar feel to it, and they're going into the back. And in the back room where there's like boxes of beers and things like this, like boxes, like the stuff that has the cockroaches. What is it? Like, I can't think, it's going so quick through my head. The cardboard boxes. Oh my God, I'm like, the boxes that have the cockroaches. Don't leave cardboard in your house because apparently cockroaches like it or whatever. But I'm just seeing boxes and boxes stacked. I don't know what's in the boxes. I'm assuming it's beer, and it's back there against the wall, and I'm seeing them go down here, and there's like a group of men around in a circle. There's a few ladies with them, and I feel like these ladies talk to David. He's just a little kid. At this time, he's like 10, 11, 12. So he's a young boy, preteen, going into puberty, and these young kind of pretty dressed girls are talking to him, and I'm not seeing what's going on, but it's just not the right atmosphere for a young man, young child, boy child. I mean, I know all you men are out there going, yeah, it's good, but I'm thinking it's not, because I see him turning his head away in shame. I feel like some of these people, maybe he watched his dad with these people, because I'm actually seeing that, okay? So I'm going to say there was inappropriate sexual viewing by David watching the parents, and not by accident, by choice. On the father's side, I don't think it's the mother's side. I see the mother over here, and I see her, she was kind of loony. She kind of tuned out. She's drinking. She's walking around. She's talking to herself. I don't really know what happened to his mother, but that's what I'm getting right now. Then I'm jumping ahead to David's career, okay? I'm literally jumping ahead. He's stepping in front of the camera. I don't know if you can see the camera going blurry, but I think it might be going blurry right now, because he just kind of washed through here, and he's looking at me like, why am I telling his secrets? He's actually sitting there, and he's looking at me. He's sitting on my table looking at me, but he's half in front of my camera, half behind it. I just caught him there for a second. He's talking about being very, very morose as a young man. Like, there was a lot of thoughts with him. He contemplated everything, and I'm seeing him kind of cover up the body. Like, he can be very aggressive and have a flash temper, and then he can cover up the body and be very shy and be very embarrassed about himself, and then get really angry again. So he's showing me that he's having these mood problems. And in his early 20s, he's trying to be everything that he thinks he's supposed to be. He's like, I'm that. Like, he's straightening himself up, and he's that. And he's so disappointed by what he's seeing around him, but he's playing the game because it's giving him what he wants, but he's disappointed. I think this must be when he goes to read for parts, and he's thinking that the movie business should be different, and he hates it, but he loves it. It's exciting, but I don't want to do it. He had these other goals, and I don't know that they were ever recognized, because I don't know that he could like stay focused long enough. He could stay focused, and he was a barrel of fun when he was fun, but he had to remove himself from people because his moods would flip in a hot second. Oh my God, the camera's going. Okay, I had to put the camera back in focus because he was morphing in and out on the camera there. He wants to know if I can see him. He's actually sitting on the table, wants to know if I can show you guys him, and I wish I could if I could turn the camera around, but I think you saw it go blurry. He kind of crossed in the energy. Now keep in mind, when they're on the other side, they can actually tap into the electric energy. That's why they blow light switches and phones, and they break every kind of electrical motor or anything, microwaves, whatever. My microwave, brand new microwave, and it blows a fuse every 5 seconds, and it just doesn't matter how I replace it, how I replace the fuses, how we redo the electrical. It doesn't matter. They come in and they attach to the electrical energy. They stop watches. I don't usually wear a watch because they stop the watches. So like, what's the point, right? Anyway, what I'm feeling with David is he started, what I'm seeing, doing drugs very early on. I'm getting like really by the age of 11, 12, he started experimenting with drugs, and I'm seeing it actually taking something. He's taking something. So it's not like marijuana. I'm not saying he didn't do marijuana, but this is not marijuana. It's not heroin or anything. He's kind of taking tablets of something, and he's experimenting, and that's so Sagittarius. And Pisces rising, you people with Pisces rising, Pisces moon, remember this, the word addict was invented for you. Don't get mad at me that I say that. Pisces loves the ethereal level, and if you're grounded in the physical body, you can't really get out into the astral level. So Pisces loves addiction because it shoots them right out of their body. Loaded 12th house people, you need to watch this too. So they love to escape into the astral realms through drugs and alcohol or whatever it is they can find. I mean, if they could do it by eating chips, they do it by eating chips. Whatever it is, they love to do that. So when I'm looking around at the energy of him, I'm seeing him and he's living a life that he thinks he's supposed to live, and he's trying to get his father's attention. This is what I'm getting. He wants to get his father's attention, but his father fights with him as he gets older. They don't have a close relationship. They are not close. They are friends when necessary, and then he's pushed away. He has a hard time because there's things that he doesn't want people to know about him, and the personality is a little bit split in a lot of ways, okay? So the personality is split, but he's showing me he's all over town, he's at these parties, the women are throwing himself at him, and he's like, these are beautiful women. He's got everything he wants, but it's not satisfying. Even the sex isn't satisfying for him. That's why he's taking it up a notch, okay? That fascination with cutting off circulation and choking himself, all of that kind of living on the edge, trying to take oneself out. I'm going to put it back to that Saturn in the first house. He's trying to take himself out, but not acknowledging it. He's trying to get that feeling of being on the other side or out of the physical body, while he's figured out how to use the orgasm and the lack of oxygen to do that. And it's setting him up. It's really interesting because he's showing me that he learned this because it was done to him as a kid. That, I don't know how one learns that. I mean, there are men out there that do that. They choke their girlfriends and shit, and that's fine. I always figured they have these like anger issues, or that, you know, they hate mommy, and so if you're a girl, like they're gonna choke you because they hate mommy. Sorry, but that's what I think. When I hear it, I'm like, it can be interesting, but like if you're not careful, you're gonna kill somebody, and I don't know. Do you really want to do that during sex? I guess it depends. Apparently. Anyway, I'm getting that somebody was doing this to him as a kid. This is how he learned to be sexual and get satisfaction as a kid. I don't know if he's told anybody that, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing him as a young kid, and I'm talking young, 7 and 8, and experimenting. If anybody out there has raised a boy children, you know that they find their diapers when they're like 2, and they find their penises, and it's like they're all men, little kids. I know, they're like, wow, look what I got. And they're just like this, you know, the fascination starts off. It's probably being in the physical body, and they're like looking, going, what is this? Now, I can remember in my childhood looking down and actually when my brother was born, screaming like, where's my penis? And that's what they told me. I can believe it too. I can believe it. He had one, I didn't, and little kids don't understand that. So I was like, where's mine? How come he has one? Anyway, this David Carradine learned this shitty ass behavior as a child. Not the fact that he discovered his body, but the fact that somebody was stopping the oxygen while fondling him is what I'm getting. And this is a relative, and this is an older man connected to the family, connected to the father. I believe it's I'm going to say, and I don't know if the father had brothers, an uncle to David, but I'm going to put it that way. They called him an uncle. So that's what I'm going to say. This is where he learned it. Now, here's the problem. He's not telling me this. I'm telling you this. Whatever your first sexual arousal experience is, and I don't know why I'm talking so much sex with him, except that it's him and maybe he wants me to, but you're going to hook into that if you don't clear that trauma. And I don't think he ever cleared that trauma, because as he's in his 20s, he's still not feeling connected to the people in his life, like to his relationships, to his work. It's unsatisfying is what I'm getting. And I'm getting that this behavior that he does is kind of compulsive, okay? It's like a compulsive thing. It's like, I'm feeling like shit, I'll go eat a cookie, but I'll go do this behavior. So I really do feel like David had a habit of choking himself during sex. I don't think that that was made up, and I don't think that he didn't do it. Now, here's the problem. If you get known for doing quirky things and then you end up dead, people assume that that quirky thing was the reason you ended up dead. And when we mention sex connected to it, what do people do? They go, oh, no, I can't talk about that. Okay, Sloan will talk about it, because I'm like, oh, let's talk about it. Because because why is sex so bad? You people should be upset over murder and stuff, but people get all bent out of shape over sex. We are sexual beings, and we have all kinds of different quirks along the sexual spectrum. But the problem is, if you're known for a quirk that most of society doesn't do or isn't mainstream, and then you end up dead, it's kind of, you're going to be blamed for it. It's like if you're, a heroin addict and you end up ODing, they assume you OD'd. But what if somebody shot you up? What if you didn't OD? But what if you were a heroin addict? But what if you didn't do that this time? See, it sets you up. It sets the impression. So when I'm reading the energy of somebody, even if the energy is like, I don't want to go down this road, when I'm reading, because you guys have asked me, I will step back and I will not judge the situation from my personal judgment. Unless, of course, you're abusing children, then I'm coming after you, because I can't keep it cool with that. That's not cool. It's not cool what was done to him, because it was done to him. Because he was sexualized, and that way of behaving was socially conditioned into him as a young child, and that is never okay. It's not okay. I don't care why you say it's okay. Not okay. But as a reader, I will try to step back and feel the energy and convey it, because my job is to convey it to you. It's to let you know this is what I'm picking up. And with David, I'm getting this feeling, it's really a sense of morose with him. Like, he has moments of great joy and he's the life of the party and he's really fun. And then he switches and out the door he goes. So he's kind of like over here and walled off, and then he's out public, and then he's walled off. So this personality really reminds me of a serious depression problem, going way back, like into his early 20s, serious depression. Like, this guy was depressed, and I feel really sad. He had this instinctual thing going on with him where he was sad a lot of the time, but he had all of this great success coming, and he really did like playing the movie Kung Fu. He did it. It's funny. I'm looking at him and he was really into, he had such a great run in his career in the 70s and was hugely famous. For those of you that are too young to remember, hugely famous. That's how fleeting fame is, though. In 50 years, no one's going to know who we are. They'll read about us in books, but no one's going to care. No one's going to care. It's going back to the silent film era. There's a few buffs that go back there, a few people that study it, but most of us are like, what's out there right now, right? You talk to some kids, they don't even know, like, whoever is. But David Carradine had this brilliant career, okay? And what I'm seeing him doing, because I asked him, how did you prepare for a character? Because I really wanted to know. I'm interested in how people come to their work. It's like asking a psychic, how do you get your information? Where does it come from? Most of us don't know where it comes from, but he's showing me that he had this tremendous, almost stage fright before he stepped into the character, and he would fight it back and forth. I'm going to go in front of the camera. I'm not going to go. I'm going to go. I'm not going to go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit. He would do stupid shit to get himself fired at times, is what I'm seeing. And he had this insecurity about him that was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it right now. I'm not doing it. And then they would call him out there. And suddenly, after getting rid of all that anxiety, he's showing me that he had to talk with the anxiety and he had to like throw a tantrum. And then he's showing me, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It would just come out of him. So it was an expression. It was an intuitive, creative expression with him, but he had to let go of the anxiety and the sadness. And it was always a downer for him. That sounds really weird. He had to get really down before he could pop back up. And then we could see through to the character that he was playing. And he tried to bring them to life. Very Pisces rising, very Pisces rising. Okay. Pisces can take the energy and enmesh themselves in it in a very bright way or a very dark way. And this is what I'm seeing him do. I'm seeing him, I asked him about this, and he's talking, sometimes he would drink, and by the way, here's another thing he liked to do. I can't say as I blame him, because it was kind of fun back in the day, but he was a huge fan, and here's the kicker. because I think he died, he was like in his 70s, 71, 72, somewhere in there. 72, I think. Don't quote me. Google it, look it up. But I think he was like 72 when he passed, maybe hitting his 73rd year. Up until the day he died, okay, or the month he died, he still loved to do this. What is it, you ask? It's mind altering. It's fucking crazy when you take it. I just had this conversation last night at dinner. You know who you are if you watch this, who I had this conversation about taking LSD. If I took LSD right now, I think I'd be in the fucking loony bin for the rest of my life with my brain missing. He enjoyed LSD so much that he took it all the way throughout his life. This was a lifelong thing that he took. And I think it might have been, he's kind of showing me that when he died, it's what saved him. It's a weird thing to say. No, he wasn't high on LSD when he died. But what he saw after he crossed out of his body and how he was able to resonate in that energy field, he is saying he'd seen before with the LSD. So he'd had near-death experiences through the usage of the LSD. I am not condoning the use of LSD. If there's anybody out there watching thinking I'm saying it's good, I'm not. I am saying I had fun doing it and he had fun doing it, but he did it a lot longer. I don't think I'm sane enough to do it right now. I think it would really trip me out. That's what we were talking about. It's just really funny. Anyway, I'm getting that he is saying that what he practiced as a young man through the expansion and experimentation of using certain drugs helped him cope with when he died. It was very unsettling to him when he died. He is telling me that. Very unsettling, okay? Very unsettling. He's showing me something. He definitely had a type in women. He had a type, okay? So there was a type of women, and he's switching that now. He doesn't like to talk about the death right at this point. He's switching this now to the type of women that he dated. He dated women that were all smart for different reasons. He dated women that were, I think he actually had 5 marriages, because I think there was one more after Marina. So the women that he dated had specific gifts that would elevate his soul. So he saw spark in these women and he was like, that one can teach me this. It's not a bad way to be. I mean, sometimes we're teachers in relationships and other times we're students, and sometimes it goes back and forth. But he's showing me the smartness of the women. And he's talking specifically right now because, of course, I'm connected to his 4th wife, Marina, and he's talking specifically about at the time that he met her, and he's talking about really wanting to flirt with her, and she brought out the fun side of him, and she was accepting of him. She was open to who he was, and that was appealing to him at the time. I don't know what that means. I don't know who wasn't accepting of him. I mean, it goes in and out in life. Like sometimes we date people and they, you know, they don't like who you are. Like I've had people in my past life, they're like, oh, you're psychic. Well, you're going to burn in hell. Well, clearly I had to divorce that person, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I can't stay married. So I'm sorry, it just made me laugh thinking of that. But sometimes you can't really stay with a person because your goals are different, or the way that you behave and the way that they behave are different. But he's saying that she was really open. And when I'm asking now this is interesting. This is a message for her. And I'm saying it specifically on camera. He's showing me an open book. Okay. So there's a book and I'm seeing writing on this book and she's opening the book for him. Okay, I'm sure I'm doing an analogy here. And she is reading off of this book and he is being reschooled in who he was, is what he's saying. So there's a thank you out there for being reschooled in who he was as an actor and bringing that back out public. And then he's showing me the Kill Bill at that point. So he's showing me the hard work that she put into resurrecting with him his career and who he was. He's basically saying that he'd gone into hermit mode and hiding, and he was pretty obnoxious at the time that he met her. Not when he met her, not at that moment, but prior to that, he was pretty freaking annoying, and he was getting further and further into his depression and the dark side. Like, he was getting into the dark side of things, and he was going down a dark road, okay? So when he met her, nobody really wanted to be around him because you could just see the the dark side of him. Now, Marina, I know her to be a healer. That's actually how I know her. She's also a PR girl, but I know her in her healing profession, her psychic profession, the way that she is. So she's very intuitive. So I can see her empathy coming out and trying to kind of heal what was broken in him, and he's seeing it, but he's showing me in the way of intellect with her. So I'm seeing it in the way of intellect, which is interesting, and I have no idea if I said that to her on the day that she called me when she found out he died, which I believe was before it was broken to the media, because I don't believe I'd heard it on the TV. Anyway, getting back to that, I'm seeing it, and when he did kill Bill, he's showing me this being terrified to go back out there. What if he's not accepted? What if people don't like him? What if they don't know who he is? Well, of course, people don't know who you are till you exist in front of them, right? Like, you don't know who someone is until they show up. But he's showing me this all the way along, and it was terrifying for him. This is what he's saying. It was terrifying. And he stepped into it, and he felt his energy grow. So he was able to really elevate himself. And then he said he started to think stupidly again. So I'm feeling as he started to do the Kill Bill movies, it started to trigger stuff from his childhood again for some reason. I don't know what it triggered, but it started to trigger it for him. He had some other issues going on there. I'm talking psychologically, with the way that he thought, that brought out the depression, that brought out the childhood issues. People, we actually have to heal our traumas. We have to do it ourselves. There's no getting out of it. I don't think he worked on it. I think he thought he did, but he didn't, because I don't think he was ready to delve into certain things. And he goes right back to his family. He goes back to his history. He goes back to his children. I'm not sure how many children he had, but I'm seeing different levels of abuse within different levels of family circumstances. Some could have been his stepkids, but I'm seeing different levels of this. So the abuse that he learned in childhood was something that he passed on over here, and at different levels of inappropriateness is what I'm seeing. All of this is going around, but again, it's going back to the family. He's showing me, I'm totally going off on another tangent here. I've got to get back, but he doesn't want me to. He's going back to his father, and he's going back to before he's born, to when his father is really, really young. Like, his father is like 23. I do not know how old his father was when he had him. Could have had him at when he was 23. I really don't know. But I'm going back to the age when the father was 23, and I'm seeing a handshake, and I'm seeing him brought in. I'm seeing him brought into a circle. I actually am seeing the dad being brought into a circle. There's 4 other men around him. When I look at the men's eyes in the background, the eyes are dark, so there's a coldness or a callousness to this. And I'm going to say something really weird here. I'm going to connect this. I'm going to connect this up in a really weird way. Never said this in my life. Pretty sure I didn't say this to Marina. I'm connecting the father and his friend circle to the Black Dahlia at that time. I'm actually connecting it to that. I don't know why I want to say it. I don't know if he knew the person who did it. I'm not saying he did it, but I'm connecting it. I'm going off down that road. That's fucking weird, okay? Because I don't even expect to say that, and I don't even want to say that. That's what I'm picking up, though. So I wonder if he had knowledge of the person who did this through his circle of friends. It could very well be that. I don't even want to go there, so I'm shutting that off. But David is sending my mind back to the dad and talking about this circle of friends and talking about like what they did and talking about bringing his son in and bringing him in and bringing in his siblings. And this is what we're going to do. Not all of his siblings, some of them. And this is what we're doing. And David was coveted by the father. So something in David was seen as pliable in that direction as a child, or he could have been the child that most needed his father's attention. It's kind of weird. Okay, now I have a little bit of a headache. So this is video number 1 on the late actor David Carradine, who died in Thailand, apparently from autoerotic sexual asphyxiation. The verdict is out on that, because I'm going to actually go back and figure out if that's actually what happened. But once again, and I'm out of breath right now, so I can feel the asphyxiation. Once again, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.